Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Life on the Wrist. I hope you guys are doing well today. I wanted to do a video on a topic that I covered on our podcast, I want to say last week, where we talked about what a watch enthusiast today thinks is important about their watch or a watch that they're going to buy, and sort of how watch enthusiasts are joining the hobby. I think it's a changing landscape that I don't really know how to make this into a happy video. To me it's sort of sad, sort of how watch enthusiasm is going, and I thought I would just put my thoughts down in a video. Probably not going to have a lot of watch images or anything like that. It's probably just going to be me talking, so please bear with me while I drone on. But this sort of trend that I've noticed in the watch community over the last 2, 3, 4 months is, I think watch enthusiasts really only care, or there's too much focus on how much the price, there's too much focus on the price of the watch that someone is wearing, and not enough focus on the history of watches, of watchmaking. And it's really sad for me, because one of the reasons why I created Life on the Wrist was I really wanted to educate people on watches, to get into watches for the right reasons. And sometimes it's sad when you see a passion of yours go in a different direction. So I thought I would sort of talk about this trend and if I think there's any hope, and hopefully this video will I don't know, hit home with some of you, and you'll try and take the longer but I think more fulfilling route in watch collecting. So like I mentioned, it seems like there's a big trend in watch collecting now to focus on how much a potential watch you're going to buy costs, and not, well, yeah, that's the only focus. I think watches have become this really great thing that a lot of people are getting into, and people are excited about owning watches and wearing something cool on their wrist, and that's really great. I think if you go back 10, 15, 20 years ago, I think there were more watch enthusiasts then than there are now. Obviously, smartwatches and the wearable technology has sort of taken over the time that people have, or the wrist time of people who perhaps would wear something like a watch. So I think from that perspective, I think the pool of people who are interested in wearing mechanical watches is definitely diminishing, and I think everyone knows that the sales from Switzerland are definitely not increasing at the rate that they were previously, just based on the new generation of potential watch buyers thinks is important. And so you already got a smaller sort of population of people who may be interested in watches. I think now there's a lot of avenues where people have the opportunity to showcase what they wear, what they buy, what they are interested in, and watches is obviously something that's up there. Watches at the end of the day are a luxury good, no matter how much it costs, $50, $5,000, $500,000, it's a luxury. And so I think a lot of people enjoy showing people that they were able to buy a watch. And so with that, a lot of the times what the focus is how much did this watch cost me, and how can I show people how I want to make sure that I can show people how much I spent on this watch. And so you're going to find specific pockets of watches that people are going to gravitate towards because they cost a lot and are respected by watch collectors, and very recognizable. I'm sure you can think of watches off the top of your mind that I might be referring to. So you have these people who are buying these watches, and so to mark some sort of success in their life, they're buying these watches, and obviously are going to be showing them to people around them. And those people who are seeing these watches might actually not be watch enthusiasts. They might not know a lot about watches, and this may be the first time that they're seeing one of these watches. And so when they see it, they say, oh wow, this person achieved something great. That's going to be the goal for me, to buy something like that, or buy that specific piece. So already you've got a novice in watch collecting who sees this person as a successful symbol, and this watch as a successful symbol, And so they realize, wow, I just need to make a ton of money and then I can buy this piece. And so that's how they get into watches. They're like, okay, this is an expensive thing. I want to show off that I was successful. I have the money to buy this. And that's how they get into it. Which for me, I think is really disappointing, because what they don't realize is the watch that person is actually wearing is a symbol for all of the history that went into watchmaking. From an engineering perspective, from a design perspective, there's a lot that's gone into creating that specific piece. Hundreds and hundreds of years of watchmakers went into that piece is sort of symbolizing all of that time and energy that those watchmakers put into it. And so they're not sort of going down the avenue of, let me do some research and learn about watchmaking and learn about these historical figures that made these watches possible. One of the things I do on Life on the Wrist is cover legendary figures of watchmaking, because I think it's really important to show these are the watchmakers that created some of the basics that we take for granted in watchmaking. Obviously, they do a whole lot more, create incredible complications and create brands. Brands have come out of their contributions to watchmaking, and so I do that because I think that's a really important part about someone's watch collecting journey, to know all of the history of watchmaking and what went into the pieces that they may be aspiring to buy. So they're not getting into watches in that way, which I think is a little bit more time consuming. It takes time, is a journey that you have to go on, and that side of things, people just are not getting into it that way. I hope that maybe I was able to educate someone with this channel and someone got into watches that way. I don't think an average collector today is going from that avenue. It's more about, let me buy something sort of that symbolizes success and spending a lot of money. So what really sucks is, once, let's say this collector ends up being able to afford the piece that they saw this individual buy, a lot of the times then they sort of become the individual that they were aspiring to be. They become the person who's going to show off this watch, and then it sort of creates this self-fulfilling cycle of, okay, I'm successful, I'm going to buy this watch, I'm going to show it off to my friends, and then a friend who maybe isn't into watches does the same thing happens, right? And so you just get these watch enthusiasts who are only focused on the fact that these are a symbol of success and cost a lot of money. And I don't think money should be the root of why this is such a great hobby to get into. You'd be curious just to talk to someone and say, hey, do you know why this actually costs so much? Because I think all the watchmaking that goes into it is exactly why the prices are so expensive. But I don't know if they could actually describe that process to me, which is unfortunate. I fully understand that maybe there is potential for a watch collector to get into it from I'm buying this watch because I want to have this as a symbol of my success, and then they realize, wow, there's a lot of history behind this brand or history behind this watch, and then they sort of go down that research avenue. And I think that's a fine path to take. Actually, I encourage people to take that path, because sure, you had one way of going about it, but maybe through your research you would influence your group of friends or a group of enthusiasts that you're sort of surrounded by, and maybe people will start doing their research a little bit more often. But I don't think that's a common thing to happen, which is really sad to me. I think also what's really sad to me is collecting has become about owning. It's about having specific pieces. I don't want to call people out, but some watches have been released this year and there's a massive shortage, and people have been really frustrated with the brands because of those shortages. And what's really sad is they're frustrated because they can't own it. They can't have it in their collection. And I think they're missing the whole point about watches. The journey to getting a watch is what's, I think, most important. It's the people you meet, the connections you make, the research and the research you've done on the piece, the longing and passion and all of that coming together is why watch collecting is so important. It's the journey about trying to get a piece. Once you own it, I actually think your love for that piece actually diminishes, because you realize it doesn't really fulfill you. Owning something, it's like, well, okay, now I own it. What's the next step? What's the next watch that I want to, try and get? So it's really the journey, and I don't think people are focusing on that enough. And so people are amassing these massive collections of watches just so that they can say they own these pieces, right? Instead of taking their time and going on the journey of watch collecting. And I think that all stems from like being able to say, I own this piece, I own this piece, I have 3 of these, I have, I was able to get this piece, while collecting is about having some sort of, collection of goods, there's another layer to it. And I think the way that people get into watches, whether it's the research, the thing that takes a lot of time, if you go about it that way, I think you'll understand that a little bit more. And I just find it unfortunate that people are getting into watches because of how much they cost and what it looks like, what it tells other people about you. I'm sorry for going on a little bit of a rant, but it's just a really unfortunate sort of reality, and I think the trend is not going to stop, in my opinion. People want to show, people want to show off. It's part of, I guess, human nature now, and I think there's platforms for us to do that even more now. And so I think it's a reality that I watch enthusiasts just have to realize, is people are going to get into watches because they cost a lot and they're a symbol of success, and etc., all the things I've said. But I won't stop. I hope that Life on the Wrist is a place where you can learn about watches, watchmaking, the history of watches, and you can get into watches from a research and understanding everything about watches. That's really the goal, is to educate, and I hope that I'm doing something close to that. Please continue to do the research and get a passion for the watchmaking and the stuff that went into owning that piece. I think that's a much more important thing than just owning it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, or think it's an interesting topic. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. If you want to let me know what you think, leave a comment about what you think about the state of watch collecting. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you like these types of videos, you like watches, you like learning about the history and some of the smaller things about watches, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you wouldn't mind leaving a like, that really does help us out with our YouTube analytics. And with that said, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time.